Hi, I'm Lady Mair, and I was crying about books on the internet, but I was talking with a group of people the other day, and we were all looking at our TBRs, looking back at 2024, looking back at our monthly reads, what we owned, and most of us realised that we did not have enough women on our TBR. So, this is me recommending you books by female authors to add to your TBR. Every single one of these I've read. So this is me recommending you a load of women to read, and this might have to be in a couple of parts because I have a shit ton of books to recommend you. You cannot go wrong with Shauna Lawless. Shauna Lawless is fucking incredible. Literally incredible. So, this is historical, mythological Irish, okay? And this is kind of Vikings. If you like Vikings, you would like this. I do recommend give this a try, even if you're not a fan of historical, because I didn't think I was a fan of historical. Then I read Children of God's Fighting Ben. It was fine. Then I read The Words of Kings and Prophets book 2, and I was blown the fuck away. I am totally putting off reading book 3 because 1, I don't want it to end, and 2, I don't want to be emotionally devastated just yet. I love these characters. You follow 2 very strong women, but are completely opposite each other. You have Gormla, who is the kind of Cersei type character, right? Who would do anything in her power to keep power. But this is again historical Ireland. Women don't have a lot of power. They are married off. They, their husbands go or their sons disappear, and all of a sudden they've got nothing. And while Gormla is one of these Irish mythological creatures that I don't really know what they're called, but basically she can live forever and has some kind of powers, and she's sort of keeping away from some other creatures that are around, because, not other creatures, same people as her, but they sort of don't really integrate with humans as such, and they're told not to do this, and they don't interfere, they just sit and watch. But Gormla is interfering, she wants power. So there's that going on, and that's her. Then you have Folda. I think I'm saying her name right. She is the sweetest fucking thing ever, and I will die for her. I will lay my life down for this fictional woman. I'm a reader who I do not really like the Goody Two-Shoe character, but Folda is just, there's something about her. She is so nice. And the men in her life, especially the powerful men, who, again, she's not human, who are like her, who have used her, and I just, fucking men. But Folda comes forward, and there are some good men in these books, and there's a romance in here that my non-romance heart just is so happy, and I'm just sitting here, and I'm just loving it. And it's just absolutely incredible. Do go read it. Book 1 is building up a lot of stuff, okay? I enjoyed it, right? It was a good fun read. Book 2, however, whoa. Fucking whoa. So if you're not completely sold on book 1, totally understand if you don't want to continue, but try book 2. You might be a bit like me and might be completely surprised by how it just blows you away. Joanne Harris is a new author to me. I have read The Gospel of Loki, which was so entertaining. It was just fun. It's fucking Norse mythology. It's fucking Loki, right? What's not to like? And how she wrote that. What else have? And then I read her Moonlight Market, which is very much fairy tale-esque, Goblin Market, Edge of London. Really sweet, good, standalone. Absolutely loved it. This is on my TBR. Apparently these are a lot of short stories, and apparently this is kind of give me the same, like reading the blurb, and this is also illustrated. Let's see if I can find like a stunning illustration for you. Like, look at that. How gorgeous, and I do really want to read this. This is giving me kind of the same vibe that the Moonlight Market did. So the Moonlight Market, let's talk about the Moonlight Market, because that's the one I've recently read. I borrowed that from my library, so I don't own it. We all like our libraries if we can use them. So I borrowed it from I borrowed it from the library, and it's about, there's a bee and I think it's a wasp, but 2 kind of creatures, right? Maybe it isn't a wasp. But no, it's a moth. It's a moth. I knew I could remember this without looking this up. And they have a child, but obviously the honeybee loves to be, you know, out in the daylight, all of this, and then the moth, who's the guy, is not. And they have a child, but something sort of goes wrong, and there's magic, and there's the spider who weaves webs and stuff like this. The child goes missing, and both sides, so there's moths and the bees, especially between the husband and wife, if you want to call it that, is they sort of go into an endless war. They end up leaving their nice little magical place, go to London, and kind of modern day London, and it's this guy trying to find, and you know, it's like a curse, kind of cursey like, fairy tale like, that kind of stuff going on, and he finds a bee, and he realises he's sort of in this world but not in this world, and he's been in and out of this world for so many times because his memory's been altered. It's where the goblet market comes in. There's this old guy who's actually a spider, who is the sweetest guy. I love him. And it's about him sort of learning to reclaim what is his right, because he's part moth and bee at the same time. And it sort of goes along that. It's a really sweet story. There's romance in it, but it's more than just a romance story. It's cute. I like it. And this is giving me the same kind of vibe. It's giving me the same kind of vibe. It's honeycomb. Let's not drop the book. Long ago and far away and long ago, the world was honeycomb we know, the world we were honeycomb. Rich and dark and opulent, cocooned in silk and shadow, this is a novel unlike any other, a honeycomb built from 100 cells, where each cell is a story in its own right. I don't like that. There is a story the bees used to tell. Like, it sounds that kind of mystical kind of vibe. If you want rage, look no further than Iron Widow. Literally. Xiran and Zhao, they, because they go by they, them, I have to keep remembering that because I trip up. But they are a Chinese author. And there's a couple of controversies that happened around the Hugo Awards with this book. This is a YA novel, okay? Yes, I did tab a Lumen Grey book, okay? But this is basically a kind of a reimagining of the Chinese Empress in a sense. So there's a lot of things in this book, so do check trigger warnings. It is YA, so it doesn't really go deep into stuff, but it's a polyamorous relationship, which we're all here for. It's kind of sci-fi, but it's not, but it is. Xiran, who's our main character, one of her sisters they get taken to these big kind of, I can't remember what she calls them, these like shippy people, piloting a chrysalis, giant transforming robots that battle the aliens beyond the Great Wall. That's what they are, right? And they're just absolutely incredible, like amazing. But her sister gets taken, a lot of women get taken to help pilot, but they always end up dying some of the time, or most of the time. And Xiran basically goes in, infiltrates to find the person who killed her sister. And there's so much more layers to this. There's so much going on in the government. There are references to how Chinese women treated, like wrapping their feet, because they weren't allowed to flee. All of that going on. And it is full of rage, so much rage, the world, at everything, not just feminine rage, just rage in general. And then the book 2 has come out. You need to add them to your TBR, because I started reading this, blew me away. I was possessed. I think I read this in 3 sittings. I was like, what? Screaming, crying, throwing up, reading this book. Go read Xiran Zhao. They have incredible presence online. I love what they are doing with their platform and with everything that's going on. Please go read them. It would not be a recommendation video without M.L. Wang, because The Sword of Kaigan blew me away. Have I read this? No. Do I predict it's going to be a 6-star read? Absolutely fucking yes. I am reading this month, so it's not going to be read by the time this video goes up, but it will be read imminently. I have the audio, cannot wait. Look at this fucking stunning edition. Like, this is fucking gorgeous. Look at it. Like, I'm like, this is probably one of the best broken binding books that I've basically come across. But Emma Wang is probably one of the author by author for me. The Sword of Kaigen, which is the one I have read, is a standalone book, but there is kind of an open ending because she was tying it to another series, but now she's discontinued the series for now. So, but you can always just skip reading the last chapter. It's like an epilogue. You can skip the epilogue if you wanted, and then you will be fine. It'd be like a standalone. But Sword of Kaigen is about motherhood. It is about women changing who they are. It is about women reclaiming who they were because they ended up getting married, because they ended up having children, because of all of this, because they are not really allowed, or it's frowned upon for them to do things outside of a traditional woman role. And there's a war coming, and this little village is the one who's taking the brunt of it, who's having to stand up. And Misaki, I think that's the main character's name, I can't be asked to check, but a main character who is a mother, she knows how to fight, but she has to hide who she is, and she comes out and she's so brutal. But then you have her husband, and there's so much more a deep relationship to him. It's not that he doesn't really respect women or her, it's society, and he's coming out, and there's all sorts, like, I hated him at the beginning of it, absolutely despised him, but then by the end of it, okay, by the end, it was their conversation, I'm not going to say when, but by the end, I liked him, because him and our main character had a conversation. And then you get a POV from their son, which it's brutal. I remember listening to the audiobook at work. My boss's mum walked onto the I am crying. I am mucking out this stable. It's just like full on sobbing. I'm fine, inhaling the tears, acting like, yeah, no, it's fine, just a cute little audiobook. Yeah, no, cool, we'll talk about the horses. Like, what is going, it blew me away. This apparently is Dark Academia. This apparently witches. It's apparently that this main character is the first woman to become a mage and to go to this mage school. So there's obviously going to be a lot of things going on here. A lot of things of like sexism, suppression, everything going on, and people just being fucking men. And I can't wait. I can't wait. Emma Wang has such an excellent way with characters that anything she writes, I will pick up. This incredible. I love her. This is a YA book about dragons. I read this fucking years ago. This is like an alternate Mulan, basically. I loved it. There's a lot of Chinese stuff going on about Chinese dragons, how you get chosen from what I'm going from memory. I read this over 10 years ago, so if I remember this and it turns out to be true, I deserve a reward. The main character who ends up, they all have to go and see if they're going to get chosen by these kind of spiritual dragons, and a main character gets chosen by the one that hasn't chosen one in like centuries, and then you have to learn, and there's all Chinese kind of things, and then there's a budding relationship kind of going on, and all of this happening. And I remember reading, it's a duology, I remember reading book 1 and book 2, like devoured them as a kid and fucking loved them. So if you love dragons, there's no reason why you can't pick this up. Gay romance people written by a woman? Yes, please, thank you. This is set in like 1800s Victorian-ish London. And this is the third book in the series. I'm holding the third book in the series up because it's my favourite out of the 3, because fucking Jack Hawthorne and Alan Ross have me on the floor. Like, they have me literally collapsed on the floor, and I will never ever stop screaming about these couples because everybody needs to read these books. I had my friend read book 1 and he absolutely fucking loved it, and I'm now begging him to read the other 2 in the series because I need to talk about Jack Hawthorne and Alan fucking Ross, because this is still sitting at the top book of the year, okay? I know it's a romantasy novel, but this is how romantasy is done. Forget fucking Fourth Wing, walk in the Marvelous Light trilogy. Calm down. Calm down. I will never be calm. So, this is a trilogy, but within each trilogy you follow a different couple. There's Edwin and Robin in the first book, which I loved, read years ago. Didn't end up picking up book 2 because it had not great things. But book 2 is a lesbian couple. We all love Sapphic, thank you very much. And then we have fucking Jack Hawthorne and Alan Ross. So there's a contract which relies around all magicians, basically. And years ago, people create this contract and then split the contract into 3 or 4 pieces, and they hid them, right? Somebody is now wanting to collect this contract to basically have all power, and they don't know why. That's the mystery that kind of flows from book 1 to book 3. There's, there is a conclusion at the end of the book, each book, especially with the romance, obviously. But you get a little bit more of that with also some of the mystery, but there's also another question and things move on. Characters really stand out. The plot is phenomenal. I'm one of those people who I'll read a mystery plot and I'm here for the ride, okay? I don't care if I get it or not, I'm here for the fucking ride. And this, I just loved it, and how it concluded at the end in this book, the mystery side of it, amazing. But the romance with each single one tied in exceptionally with the plot. So you cannot remove one from the other. And fucking romance. The romance. I swooning on the fucking floor. If you're not into romantasy, or if you've read romantasy and you think, oh fucking hell, what is going on? Why are people liking this? Try this series. Trust me and thank me later. This is a standalone. I've read one other book by this author, which is Roshani Chokshi, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I hope I'm saying her name right. I do apologise. This is a standalone, and I read this a while ago, and it's beautiful and it's lyrical. And there's, I want to say, time, like past and present in this. Let me just refresh my brain. Once upon a time, a man who believed in fairy tales married a beautiful, mysterious woman named Indigo Maxwell Castaneda. He was a scholar of myths, she was an heiress to a fortune. They exchanged gifts and stories and believed they would live happily ever after, and in exchange for her love, Indigo extracted a promise that her bridegroom would never pry into her past. So, obviously, the bridegroom, the groom, the guy, the man, is unable to resist prying into his wife's past when they have to return back to his wife's childhood home, where a childhood friend, went missing. There's secrets, there's magic going on, it's lyrically told. I enjoyed it. It's a standalone, and I know a lot of people are hit and miss on this. I had a lot of fun with this. I found the ending a little bit too wrapped up in a bow. Some little stuff, but for what it was definitely entertaining. So I highly recommend you check this. She also wrote The Gilded Wolves, which I read The Gilded Wolves. I have the other 2 I still have to read, and I keep telling myself I'm going to. I even picked up book 2 and read a chapter of it, and then I want more romance in my books, and currently that just had, because I was in my romantasy binge era. So I put it down. But I am going to read that. I'm going to. You're holding me accountable. But go try her books. They're fun. This is probably a book you've never heard of before. I know, it's a Loom Crate book, but I guarantee you haven't seen it. Yeah. This is In the Ravenous Dark by I'm assuming this is a woman. It is a woman, I've just checked, with a fucking good tattoo arm. I don't know if you can see that. Right. Anyway, so In the Ravenous Dark has how do I explain this? I read this fucking years ago. So, we have a kind of character, Rowan, who is basically discovered to have this magic that her father died to protect her from. But she is dragged into the palace and is attracted to Lydia, love Lydia, and also a dead creature. What's his name? I'm hoping Ivrililo. Nope. I cannot say that word. What is wrong with me? I cannot say it. He's attracted to Lydia and this undead guy, the undead guy is... But there's all sorts of magic going on, and basically she sparks a rebellion when she uncovers some secrets. And it's a standalone. I love how it ended. It was one of those standalones, like, I recently read Ink Blood Sister Scribe, and it was a good book as I was reading it, but it's a standalone, but I always kind of wanted more from the book. Like, there was a bigger story that could have been told from what was there, but I didn't get the impression with this one. This was big enough as it was as a standalone, and I felt it definitely earned its merit to be a standalone, if that makes sense. So, it's a rebellion. there's a polyamorous relationship, one with a dead guy and one with a woman. What do you want? Final Strife by Saara El Arifi. It's all about blood in the Final Strife, on whether or not you have good blood. Empire rules by blood. Red is the blood of elite, magic of control, they are the embers. Blue blood is the poor of workers and the resistance, they're the dusters. Clear is the blood of the servants, of the crushed, of the invisible, they are the ghostings. Is that rule about to come to an end? This blew me away when I read it. Book 2, even fucking better. But I read this and I was like, yeah, cool. It's fine. But the depthness that goes into this. So obviously you have the red bloods, and you have the dusters, who are the blue blood, and then the pale blood. And the pale bloods are the ones who have their hands chopped off and their tongues cut out. They do have a way of communicating, which is what I find is really interesting, is because you have sign language. With these people, they use their whole body as a sign language, not just their hands. They are pushed down the bottom because of spoiler things I can't tell you why, but they know stuff. And then you have the dusters, who are like the middle class people, but what happens is somebody wants to create a revolution, so they switch two children. They take a duster child and put them in place of an ember child, and it's all about that coming out with 3 POVs. Hana is the best, who's a ghosting. She's just absolutely incredible. And then you have Scylla, who is basically a drunk woman who doesn't want more. She's an absolute hot mess, and I love her for being a hot mess. Then we also have Anor, that's her name, who is a member, but big sort of competition coming across. So it's kind of like, Red Rising, Tribal Tournament kind of in this book, but the secrets happening. There's an underground revolution going on as well, on top of everything else. I had so much fun. I have not finished this trilogy yet because I started reading book 3 and it was going a little bit more into the romance side of things than I wanted. But I might end up going back into it. I had fun. Clytemnestra. This is the story of Clytemnestra. Mother Monarch, Murder Magnificent. This book I had to read in small chunks because I got so much rage, like unending rage, that I just wanted to scream. But I love her story. I love how this retelling was done by Costanza Casati, and how it was everything. Just love it. I'm new to mythology retellings, but from what I've seen online, this is a good one. I definitely enjoyed this. I think it's, especially when we look at retellings and we look at mythology and how women were treated, their story needs to be remembered, because back then they were even treated worse than us later on, and now, and everything. And it's just so deserving. And her story, how she took revenge because some man killed her newborn child, check trigger warnings, and her husband, and took her to marry him because he wanted her, and how she had plotting for revenge, all of this happening, and it was it was brilliant. Another one that I have read is the ending retelling of Kaikei. That is another good one about women and power and their dynamics, and there's magic in it. I just enjoyed it. In ancient Egypt, but make it suffragette. Not enough people are talking about The Daughters of Istahir by Hadeer Elsbai. Hadeer Elsbai, I think. What is wrong with me and names? I don't know. There's 2 women, one who's of noble family, one's of poor family. Obviously, in this day and age, women are useful for nothing but to marry off. So, the one of the rich character, she is forced to marry another man, but she agrees only because he will agree to send her to this magic school that previously have denied all women. So, but to go, you need a patronage and a signage from a fucking man. Anyway, So she goes, she starts to learn this magic, but then she starts to hear grumblings of this suffragette movement that is happening. And this is when we go to the poor character who is meeker and quieter than the rich one, who's very loud and outspoken. And they start this suffragette movement on how women want to have more agency. There is one scene in this book, I literally had to put this down, get up off the sofa and take a turn outside, away from just a walk, because I was horrified, so horrified, but it happens. And it's when the other family of the woman who's marrying into the man, it's their family who ask proof that the woman is pure and what has to happen, and how they are open and almost, I want to say, violated and butchered just to prove something, because they refuse to believe somebody's word. It's horrible, horrible. Well worth reading. This is a completed duology. Please go read it. I've never ever read a book that moved me as much as this. Like, it's one of those ones that I'm like, people just need to read this book. They just need to read it. I loved it. Some of the women that I recommend you can add to your TBR, and I will do a part 2 at some point. But let me know if you're going to read any of these books. Let me know if you have any suggestions down below for women to add to my TBR, because I will. We all love women. We love them all shapes and sizes. On that note, see you in the next one.